The story begins not with a scream, but with the hum of a sleepy summer afternoon. It was Saturday, July 10, 1976, in the Lombardy region of Italy, just 15 miles north of Milan. The sun was punishing, baking the tiled roofs of Seveso, a quiet town where life moved at the pace of the church bells. Families were gathering for lunch, windows were open to catch the faintest breeze, and the smell of ragu simmered in kitchens. But on the edge of town, behind the chain-link fences of the ICMESA chemical plant, something was wrong. The factory, owned by the Swiss giant Hoffmann La Roche, appeared dormant for the weekend. Inside Department B, however, a reactor vessel known as Reactor 101 Inches was quietly turning into a bomb. The workers had left for the weekend, believing the production cycle of 2.4.5 trichlorophenol was safely paused. They were wrong. Due to a miscommunication and a violation of safety protocols, the steam inside the reactor was not completely shut off. The temperature inside began to climb, slowly at first, then exponentially. Pressure built up against the steel walls, searching for an escape. At exactly 12:37 p.m., the safety valve ruptured. It didn't explode with fire and fury, it simply exhaled. A thick, white cloud shot into the sky, drifting silently over the fence and into the residential neighborhoods. The cloud contained TCDD, one of the most potent forms of dioxin known to man. But down below, the children looked up and saw only a mist that looked like snow in July. 10-year-old Alice watched the crystals settle on the leaves of the peach trees in her garden. The air smelled strange, medicinal, pungent, like chlorine mixed with burning herbs. "It smells like the hospital," one neighbor remarked, wiping the gritty dust from her picnic table. No sirens wailed. The factory managers knew almost immediately that the valve had burst, yet they made a fatal decision. They chose silence. They informed the local authorities only that a herbicide cloud had been released, omitting the deadly presence of dioxin. Sunday morning arrived, and the first signs of horror began to manifest in the unspoken language of nature. Birds fell from the sky, twitching on the lawns. Rabbits in backyard hutches were found dead, blood trickling from their noses. The villagers of Seveso, confused and anxious, continued to eat vegetables from their gardens, coated in invisible poison. By Monday, the children began to cry. Red lesions appeared on their faces, arms, and legs. Their eyes swelled shut, their skin burned as if touched by invisible fire. Doctors were baffled, diagnosing it as contact dermatitis or allergies. They did not know they were looking at chloracne, the hallmark signature of acute dioxin poisoning. 5 days passed before the word dioxin was whispered in the laboratories of Hoffmann La Roche in Switzerland. 5 days while children played in the toxic dust. It took 14 days, 2 full weeks, before the evacuation began. When the truth finally broke, it shattered the community. The Italian military arrived, not with guns, but with rolls of barbed wire and white hazmat suits. Seveso was sliced into zones on a map, designated by the level of contamination. Zone A, the epicenter; the forbidden land zone B; the danger zone Zone R, the region of caution. Families in Zone A were given hours to pack, leave everything. The soldiers commanded behind gas masks, "Take only what you are wearing." Imagine the heartbreak of a mother pulling her child away from a favorite teddy bear, knowing that the toy is now a weapon. More than 700 people were displaced, forced into hotels, watching their homes become a ghost town behind the wire. Inside the zone, the culling began to prevent the poison from entering the food chain. Over 80,000 animals were slaughtered. Cattle, pigs, chickens, and beloved pets were killed and piled into trucks. A grisly harvest of negligence. The once vibrant farmland turned into a silent, gray wasteland. But the tragedy of Seveso was not just about the land, it was about the future. Dioxin is a teratogen. It causes malformations in unborn fetuses. Pregnant women in the contaminated zones faced a horrific dilemma. Italy, a deeply Catholic country, strictly forbade abortion, yet the fear of giving birth to monsters, as the tabloids cruelly put it, gripped the mothers of Seveso. A fierce moral and political battle erupted. The church urged faith, the doctors urged caution, the women urged for mercy. In the end, special permission was granted. Women traveled to clinics in Milan, weeping as they made choices no mother should ever have to make. The psychological scars of that summer ran deeper than the chloracne on their skin. They were the bearers of a toxic legacy, carrying the guilt of a disaster they did not create. As autumn approached, the reality of the cleanup set in. How do you clean a town soaked in poison? You don't just wash it, you remove it. The top 40 centimeters of soil from the entire Zone A were scraped away. Houses were vacuumed, scrubbed, and in some cases, demolished entirely. The debris, the dead animals, the soil, and the contaminated machinery were packed into massive concrete sarcophagi. 2 giant basins were constructed to hold the toxic waste, burying the sins of ICMESA underground. The epicenter, once a bustling neighborhood, was turned into Bosco delle Queers, the Oak Forest Park. It stands today as a beautiful, green lung, but underneath the roots of the trees, deep below the concrete cap, the memory of the poison remains. Tragedies often write the laws of the future. Before Seveso, chemical plants in Europe operated with terrifying autonomy. The disaster exposed a gaping hole in industrial safety regulations, the lack of communication because of what happened in that small Italian town. The European Union created the Seveso Directive. This law mandates that any facility handling dangerous substances must have a clear major accident prevention policy. They must inform the public. They cannot hide behind silence. Today, if you live near a chemical plant in Europe and you know exactly what to do when the siren wails, you have the victims of Seveso to thank. 50 years have passed. The children with the scarred faces have grown old. The panic has faded into history books, but the name Seveso remains a haunting echo. It is a reminder that progress without caution comes at a price, and that price is often paid by the innocent. Under a sunny sky, in a cloud of invisible white dust, the wind blows through the Oak Forest Park today, rustling the leaves. If you listen closely, it whispers, "Never again."